Hello everyone and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about if Arsenal can win the Premier League or no. They lost the EFL Cup, and look, my personal opinion is that a bad game doesn't define you. Plus, Arsenal has been having a really good streak, winning streak. They have played the last time they lost was 14 games ago. It was against the Manchester United. They lost 3-2, but that was all the way to January 25. So since then, they have been 14 games without losing. 11 of those 14 games they won. Those are literally 33 points. That's huge, that's crazy. Congratulations to Arsenal for that. And 3 of those 14 games were a tie. 3 points still is really good. A total of 36 points. And they haven't lost. They haven't lost in such a long time. 14 matches. That's crazy. That's a really good streak for Arsenal. And just I'm telling you, every team in all sports, doesn't care what sport it is, you can think about NBA, teams have 10, 8, even 15 win streaks all the time, and they comes a day that they are or tired or either overconfident, or they just it's not their day, just like it happens in soccer, basketball, and all of the sports. It's just not your day. That day you just play bad, and that's it. And sometimes that happens. So all the winning streaks cannot be forever. This time, unfortunately, it was in the EFL Cup against Manchester City. Manchester City just played better and they won't go ahead and win the trophy. But the thing is, Arsenal has been playing really good lately. 14 games without losing. Later they go ahead and lose in the Manchester City game in the EFL Cup. But the thing is, that loss doesn't define them. But it can be a key factor, because what happens with Manchester City just a week ago or 2 weeks ago in the first leg of the Champions League, they were playing great before of that. But in the first leg, Madrid goes and scored 3 goals on them. Of course, the momentum is down. The morale was really down, just like what happens today in the EFL Cup. It was a trophy on stake. It was a really important match, and Arsenal lost. Manchester City game against Madrid was really important too, because it's the Champions League. Every Champions League match that you play and you lose is really significant. So the thing is, they go ahead and lose that match 3-0. Later they tie against West Ham, one team that is not playing really well, that is literally fighting to not go down in the second division of the Premier League. It's not it's a surprise. Definitely is a surprise, but this is the Premier League. All the teams are very competitive, and that's the thing. It's the most competitive league in the world. So yeah, they go ahead and tie with the West Ham after of the first leg of the Madrid match, and later in the second leg they got eliminated by the Madrid 2-1. And it's a really big down. The momentum is bad, all that, but later they pick it up in the EFL Cup. They needed that win, and blah blah blah, and they play really well against Arsenal. Arsenal lost his streak, of not losing for 14 matches, but that's the thing. All streaks are meant to be broken. No streak is forever, and it can be. It just wasn't Arsenal match, and that's okay. The thing is, the Manchester City loss against Madrid was really really important. Such important that they lost against Madrid, tie one game, and later lost against Madrid again. And the thing is, Arsenal has a really heavy and tough schedule ahead of them. They play for the FA Cup quarterfinals. This is just one game and that's it. You win or you lose. If you lose, you're out of the tournament. But they play against the Southampton. I don't know how to pronounce that name. I'm sorry, but you have it on the screen. They play against that team that is really winnable for Arsenal, but it can happen the same thing that happened with West Ham, with Manchester City. Really not competitive team, but they just lost, and they just lost, so that maybe can affect them, maybe not, who knows. But the thing is, this is a really competitive match because Arsenal wants to win and they have to win if they want to go to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Later of that, that's Saturday, April 4, the FA Cup quarterfinals. Later of that, 3 days later, on April 7, they play in the Champions League the first leg versus Sporting. So of course another tough match because Sporting they were in a 3-0 deficit in the first leg of the 16th round, and they go in the second leg and score 5 goals out of nowhere and wins the series to go to the quarterfinals. So Sporting is a really competitive team, and Arsenal has to watch out because they can give the surprise in any of the 2 matches. So who knows, that maybe the first leg is really competitive, maybe no, but the thing is, it's gonna be a tough match. Later, 3 days later, April 4, they play against this team in the Premier League, and this team is not really competitive in the Premier League right now, but the thing is, they have to win. They are 9 points ahead and 9 points ahead of Manchester City in the Premier League, but if they lose or tie, Manchester City is gonna get closer. Plus, a little detail that we have to mention is that Manchester City haven't played with the Crystal Palace, so Arsenal, because the game got postponed before the EFL Cup, because Crystal Palace Manchester City game was going to be one day before the EFL Cup, so it got postponed for the players to not go too tired to the final. So Arsenal has one more match. They have played 31 matches, and Manchester City have played 30 matches. Manchester City has 60 points and Arsenal has 69 Manchester City has 61 points and Arsenal has 70 points. So 61 points, 30 matches, 70 points, 31 matches. The thing is, let's say Arsenal, of course, I don't think they are going to lose against the Crystal Palace, so that difference is not a 9 points difference. Let's say it's a 6 point difference. It's not that much of a scary difference. But again, look, for Arsenal is 7 matches left, and for Manchester City is 8 matches left. The thing, because it's 38 matches for each team in the Premier League. So this is the finish line. Arsenal cannot lose against this team in the Premier League on April 11, because if no, Manchester City is gonna get closer. It's not gonna be a 6 point difference, it's gonna be a 3 point difference now, if you count the Crystal Palace match that hasn't happened. So the difference is getting closer and closer, so they have to be sure to get the win on April 11. After 2 tough matches against FA Cup quarterfinal and the Sporting in the first leg. Later of that, they play against Sporting again for the second leg in the quarterfinal 4 days later. And later of that, 4 days later, April 19, they play against Manchester City. So the thing is, if you go ahead and see Manchester City's schedule, first of all, they just play 2 matches before going ahead and in the April 19 match against Arsenal. Arsenal plays 4 competitive matches that they have to win. 4 matches before a really important match against Manchester City. So the thing is, a lot of things can happen. For example, if they lose against in the FA quarterfinals, that can bring the momentum even worse, and later they can go ahead and struggle in the Sporting, or maybe no, maybe they win 2 matches, later they struggle against the Sporting or something like that, or maybe they even lose a match, the match of the Premier League that they have. The thing is a lot of possibilities, and more than that, Arsenal plays 4 games before going ahead and in the match of Manchester City. So it's gonna be really competitive games, and of course Arsenal is gonna be tired for the Manchester City game. Manchester City, they play Liverpool, that is in the sixth spot. Is in the fifth spot. They have to go ahead and keep winning if they want to go to Champions League spot, that is fourth spot. So if Liverpool wants to be in the Champions League next year, they have to win and all that. But I don't think Liverpool is gonna be that bad of a challenge to Manchester City. Who knows, maybe they give the surprise to them. That's the FA Cup quarterfinals. FA Cup quarterfinals is no Premier League. But the thing is, I don't think Liverpool is gonna be that much of a struggle to Manchester City. So if they win, they can start building momentum. Later they go ahead. Look the difference. Saturday, April 4 is the match against Liverpool. Later, April 12, is a 8-day span, and between that 8-day span it can be the Crystal Palace game, who knows. But the thing is, a 8 day of break for the players, later of a win and all that, or maybe after a loss in the FA Cup, that I hope no. They got Chelsea. Chelsea is not gonna be a struggle. They definitely gonna win that, or maybe who knows? Chelsea gives the surprise, but I definitely don't think so. Chelsea is in the sixth spot, so it's gonna be a competitive game because Chelsea needs to win if they want to get into Champions League. So later of that, April 12 is a 7-day span between the Arsenal game and the Chelsea game, because it's April 12 and later April 19. Is gonna be the Arsenal match. The thing is, they can put the Crystal Palace between this 7-day span, or they can put it between the 8-day span between Liverpool and Chelsea's game. Whatever it is, Manchester City is gonna have a lot of days, to take a breath, to think a strategy, to keep the momentum up, because they have won a lot of matches, and they have a clear mind because they can win all these matches, Chelsea, Liverpool, all that. They just won the EFL Cup, so the thing is, they need to keep winning if they want to go for the Premier League, and they are really competitive, so that's the goal. And of course they want to go further in the FA Cup. So the thing is, Arsenal has a way heavier schedule. You know what I mean? They have 4 matches before Manchester City, and all of those matches are going to be really competitive, as I think. If no, some of them are going to be really competitive. The thing is, Arsenal is gonna go tired. Most possible outcome is that Arsenal is gonna get tired and gonna go tired to Manchester City game on April 19. But Manchester City has like a lot of break. Of course they own the Crystal Palace game, but they have either 8-day break or they have a 7-day break. So they are going to go with a way cleaner mind and with a best outcome to win. Arsenal has a way heavier schedule. So what happens is, Arsenal can still win the Premier League. Yes, they can still win. Arsenal, believe me, they are the best team in the one of the best teams in the world right now. I'm not surprised if later of this loss they start winning, and they win all the matches left in a row. They have 31 matches. I'm not surprised if they win or tie a few matches, the 7 matches that they left, and they keep that winning streak going. But what happens if they don't? What happens if they lose the FA Cup? Or what happens if they win the FA Cup but later lose the Premier League match? Manchester City is going to get closer. And what happens if they struggle in the Sporting first leg or second leg? All is a lot of possibilities that can happen. So please, of course, I don't know what is going to happen if they're going to win. But Manchester City still has a chance. Manchester City still can win this, because Arsenal, again, they have a really heavy schedule that they have to win all those matches. And if they don't win, the consequences are going to be huge. First, because if they don't win the match against the Premier League, Manchester City is going to get closer. Second, the FA Cup, if they don't win and they lose against that team that is not really good, they're going to get really criticized, and the momentum is definitely going to go down, because it's different lose against Manchester City, one of the best teams in the Premier League, to lose the FA Cup to literally a team that I don't know the name. Almost nobody knows the name. Not being disrespectful, but it's not that good of a team. So that's the thing. Arsenal has to win all these 4 matches, and if they don't win, they're gonna be tired anyways. And later, the Manchester City Arsenal game, we have to see how that goes, because that's gonna be a really important match. And Arsenal, basically, they haven't have a break in such a long time. It's like a 3-day span break, and later play again. 3-day play again. 3-day play again. So that's definitely gonna be a factor. And Manchester City, if they do everything right, and literally Arsenal lose one game, the Premier League game, or the momentum is down by any reason, Manchester City is really dangerous, because they can win the Premier League if Arsenal struggles. But let's see what happens. Let's see if Arsenal struggles. Let's see if they pick it up way quicker than Manchester City. And let's see if Manchester City wins games, because they have to win games if they want to win the Premier League, of course. But I'm not worried about Manchester City. I'm more worried about Arsenal, because they gonna have a heavy schedule ahead of them. So let's see how everything goes. Manchester City still has a chance. Premier League is being more competitive than ever. And yeah, stay tuned. Go watch Premier League after the friendship in internationally games, and of course enjoy of all this, but don't get Manchester City out of the table. Manchester City still have a chance, and a really good one. Other than that, thanks for the support. I have another subscriber and a couple of likes. I cannot see the subscriber, but shout outs to my new subscriber. I really appreciate it, and I see your recommendations in the comments. Thank you so much for listening to this as a podcast, or just watching it while you're eating. Whatever it is I'm grateful of being part of your day, and that you watch the video until the end. And yeah, it's all that. Manchester City still has a chance. Premier League is really competitive. Arsenal has to win.